Hello, folks. It's Carl Ward, author of the book For $20 in Gold, A Story of the Civil War. We're doing a lot of preparation for the upcoming promotional tour, and one of the things that the team has been really working on is the schedule. And in preparing that schedule, they said, well, maybe we could take some time to, in fact, do some interviews, podcast, and several other multimedia activities. I was more than happy to listen to what they say. They're the professionals. So, what we wanted to do was start this particular session on YouTube as well as our website, and we'll give you all of that information before we finish. But before we get too far along, a question that pops up often is, where did you get the book cover? How was that book cover even close to being relevant to what the story's about? Well, the reality is, a great artist, a lovely lady by the name of Melanie Eger, is the artist that actually prepared the artwork and, in fact, is the inspiration for the book cover itself. Little bit of differences in her fine work and what the illustrators did specifically for the book cover. But I wanted to just highlight some things that I thought was important. And in doing these podcasts or these interviews, one of the things that I love is the fact that we've got a backdrop that illustrates what that old Ward cabin probably looks like or did look like at that time. So Melanie, being the creative artist that she was, actually asked, could she read the manuscript before we actually began the trip down, discovering the artwork for the cover. And one of the things that caught me by that was, well, it's the first time I've ever heard of anyone asking to read this specific book so that they would know some of the details that might be relevant and appropriate for the cover. Uh, a couple of weeks after my son passed the manuscript to Melanie, um, we got a furious note from my son Brian who said, Dad, I've got some pen and ink drawings for you. Love for you to take a look at them and just get an impression on whether this is the right direction. I'll have to admit, I had no idea of when I saw those pen and ink sketches what the final product was even going to come close to. I asked lots of questions, mostly, what is it? Where is she going with this? What are the particular objects she's done a pen and ink sketch of? The result was, when you looked at the individual sketches, there was no way to really understand what the cover would look like. It wasn't until much later that I really finally, truly understood and appreciated what Melanie had done. So, with my son's creative thought process and what he conveyed to Melanie and what she read in the manuscript was so critical because everything that you see on the cover and on this backdrop is, in fact, an integral part of the entire story. Each little element is actually telling a part of the story for $20 in gold. I'm not going to get into a lot of details about the specifics, but I will say that the original concept of the story began 62 years ago when I discovered an old sea chest in the very top of my Ward family farm's attic, dusty, just hard to get up and find this secret place that had been there for decades upon decades and that I had never known about. When I opened the chest, in there was just bundle after bundle of letters and documents. There were some other artifacts there as well. Certainly things that I wasn't fully recognizing as a 12, 13-year-old at the time. But it spurred an interest in my family and why they were important enough to store these kinds of things away. So a lot of the bundles were tied together with a tobacco string, uh, fine ribbons, just anything that apparently you could bundle a group of letters together. Um, and they were stacked literally in the bottom of the chest. The top drawer was covered with several stacks as well. In the bottom of the sea chest was, in fact, 9 different journals. Seven and a half of those journals were directly from the key character of this particular novel, and that was James Ward. We'll get into more of that later. But as you can look on over my shoulder, you'll see on the dining room table, and I use the term dining room uh, very loosely given the time period, where formal dining rooms were not necessarily the important part of your family farmhouse. In this particular case, as you can see, plain board, simple work, benches on one side, chairs on the other, and on the table is in fact a bundle of those letters. The other thing that was just remarkable was Melanie did a fantastic job of identifying the sunlight coming through the window. Now, the window is very significant on lots of levels, but I want to illustrate the point that in those days you would never have what we call a picture window, a window that is laying horizontal as opposed to vertically, like we see in houses. The picture window is significant because it was something relatively new. But part of the issue is, if you'll notice, it's got etched glass in it. And what you're probably seeing right now is clouds. Well, those clouds have even more significance, and they're a critical part of the story as well. If you look to the center of the backdrop, you'll see a butter churn. What in God's name could a butter churn have to be of great significance in a story about the Civil War? Once again, as you get later into the chapters of the book, you'll discover why that is so important. If you move a little bit further to the left side there, you'll also see a chest, handmade by the family members in preparation for a brand new family. Uh, James and his wife, and our character is named Anna Wallace Ward, are newly married, haven't been long, and they've been working on building a, a farmhouse that would take care of their family for the future. Each of the items you see on and around are directly related to certain items that were critical in the filling up of their home with things of importance. Perhaps it's a water basin to wash up in the morning. Maybe it's a shaving cup that, in fact, allows you to shave. Uh, a little further to the left, you'll see a stone fireplace. Stone in southeastern North Carolina is not something that you see a great deal of like you would in the Piedmont area or up in the mountains where you have lots of stonework. So in this particular case, you'll notice the stones rough hewn. They were literally picked up out of different places in the different streams and water areas of what's known as the Green Swamp, which used to hold hundreds of thousands of acres and miles across southeastern United States. Uh, and over that fireplace is a mantle. And on that mantle, you'll see deer antlers. Those antlers are all part of the story as well, and they have significance. There is an item also there on the chair in front of the fireplace. It's what's known as a Leonard target rifle. Very important part of the story, and we'll let you get into that as you read the story. So, with this particular episode, what I wanted to do is introduce you to some of the key components. Whenever we do presentations, we always have the backdrop there, and we do a couple of things. First of all, I'll do my presentation either at or around it or in front of it, depending on what the particular venue will allow. And then from there, what we do is in our book signings, we always give the individuals an opportunity to have an autographed book, personal annotation if they prefer. And we also go a step further and offer them, would you like to have a selfie or something in front of the cabin, or in the cabin, I should say. So as you look at it, hopefully, as we go through this series, you can begin to appreciate why this is so significant. Melanie brought the entire book to a culmination of true artistic work, creative beyond my expectations and belief. And there's only one other feature that I'm going to add to what the backdrop has. On the book cover, you'll notice there is no bullet hole in the window pane. The window pane you see in Melanie's artwork, and by the way, I love what my son was thinking. I think the best way to describe it is he saw that there was a tragic event and that tragic event had to shatter the Ward family. I asked the artists, the illustrators that did the artwork, to please take the bullet out. Contrary to what my son wanted and what I deeply appreciated was the emotion of a foretelling of bad things to happen to the Ward family. There are bad things, but there's also some really good things. And to me, the good things are what are important in life. The bad things are things we work our way through and try to overcome. In this particular case, I hope that's one of the emotional thoughts you have when you finish the book. So, just a short description of what this entire book is about. Some of the key items as you're going through the book. We hope that as you see those items being discussed or are part of the conversation, that mental image will immediately go back to the cover, and you can recognize where did that come from. Well, first introduction to the book and our backdrop and our presentations. Over the next few presentations, we'll continue to get a little bit deeper in. The good news is in some of our preparation work and getting feedback from people who read the book or have had a chance to read the book, we get some really good questions about, oh, what about, and how did this happen? Help me understand where this went from there. What was the end result? And I'd suggest to you the end result is sitting in front of you right now. It takes generations before I see and you see the person that I am and why that's important to me. More importantly, the story that goes back generations, 5 generations specifically, helps you understand why it's so meaningful to me. Well, we're going to wrap it up right now. I'm going to give you a chance to digest. Maybe you'll watch this video a couple of times. But in the next video, what we're going to do is start to answer some of the questions that many of you have asked already. And what we want to do is try to get ahead of that game and make sure we address some of those to give you some thoughts. I don't think you're going to have too many spoilers. I'll do my best to avoid that. Close out now for the introduction portion, and we'll begin the story with the next presentation. Y'all have a good day, and we'll catch you again real soon.